The most important thing Trump said recently, you may have missed because it wasn't in a speech and it wasn't during a press conference. In fact, it was barely caught on camera. This was it.
Thank you again. Thank you again. Don't forget. So good.
So there he is right after the State of the Union address in what he probably thought was a private conversation, saying thank you, thank you, thank you to justices of the U.S. Supreme Court, and then looking at the Chief Justice, John Roberts, and saying, I won't forget. Now, in case you were wondering what it was he was referring to, it's a case called Trump versus the United States. This is a landmark case in which the Roberts Court gave the president immunity from criminal liability for crimes committed while in office. But first, let's think about what happened even before that decision came down. So Trump is indicted on various crimes. In New York, he's indicted in Georgia, he's indicted by the U.S. Attorney's offices for sequestering classified documents and obstructing the investigation in Mar-a-Lago, and most significantly, he's indicted for inciting a violent attack on the Capitol of the United States. So in response to this dramatically important case, the Supreme Court does a couple things. First, they delay to ensure that this case doesn't go to trial before Donald Trump has a chance to be elected president. The Supreme Court proves they can move with great swiftness when they choose to, as they did. If you remember, there was a court challenge to even putting Trump's name on the ballot because there's a law that says, there's a constitutional provision that says if you incite insurrection, you can't run or hold office. So that they moved quickly on. They shut that down. But this immunity decision, they put off and put off and put off until it's no longer possible to try Donald Trump before the election. That was the first significant thing, delay justice to deny it. But then comes the decision itself, shocking in its irresponsibility. The decision says if you're president of the United States, you can commit crimes as a part of your core responsibility and be absolutely immune. For other crimes, maybe a presumption of immunity, a very strong one. And for others, for purely personal conduct, well, maybe you're not immune. But the core holding is if the President of the United States uses the Justice Department to commit crimes, he is absolutely immune. This gave Donald Trump carte blanche to use the Justice Department as a sword to go after his enemies, as a shield to protect himself. It allows him to put his own criminal defense lawyers in high positions. It allows him to intervene in specific cases, to tell the Justice Department how he wants those investigations to turn out. It would theoretically allow him to take bribes from foreign corporations under indictment to have those cases dismissed. All of these things could be done, and he would be absolutely immune. You add to that decision the president's abuse of the pardon power, and you have a president that is beyond accountability when they abuse and misuse the Justice Department. Because everybody else in that department, even if that court opinion doesn't apply directly to them, knows that this president, beyond the scope of the criminal laws, will give them a pardon on his way out the door. It is an invitation to lawlessness. As Justice Sotomayor said in that decision, it lies about now like a loaded weapon, this new immunity. But there's something more to this opinion that most people aren't aware of. And that is Justice Roberts also dramatically expands his holding on the power of the presidency itself. So beyond the application of the criminal law, it defines the presidency as such an imperial office that it lends itself to further decisions that he can fire inspector generals, he can ignore statutes, that laws he disagrees with are unconstitutional. The consequences of that we can only dimly perceive now, but they have dramatically broadened the power of this corrupt president even more. Now, when Donald Trump was asked about this by the press, why was he thanking Justice Roberts? He gave the lame explanation, oh no, it wasn't about Trump versus the United States. I was thanking him for swearing me in during the inauguration. Well, if you believe that, I've got a used Tesla I'd like to sell you.